Hello and welcome. I'm Melinda Akinlami. Tonight, Department of State Services releases convener of Revolution Now protest, Omoyele Sowore, after 124 days in custody following orders from Federal High Court. Federal High Court finds former Abia State Governor and serving Senator Orji Uzor Kalu guilty of 7.65 billion naira fraud, sentencing him to 12 years in prison. Pipeline explosion kills one in the Barua area of Alimosho in Lagos State after activities of vandals engaged in illegal oil bunkering ignite a blaze. And Speaker Nancy Pelosi confirms U.S. House will file impeachment charges against President Donald Trump for alleged abuse of power.
On business news tonight, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries holds a last meeting for 2019 in Vienna to discuss production output cut amid fluctuating oil prices.
On sports news tonight, another English Premier League manager gets the boot. This time, Everton manager Marco Silva is sacked.
And from Abuja, National Assembly passes year 2020 budget of 10.6 trillion naira, raising President Buhari's initial proposal by over 260 billion naira.
After 124 days in the custody of the Department of State Service, DSS, the convener of #Revolution Now protest, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, and his co-defendant, Wale Bakare, have finally regained their freedom. The security agency complied with a deadline from the Federal High Court in Abuja, which gave them 24 hours to release Mr. Sowore and Mr. Bakare, who had been in detention despite being admitted to bail. Justice Ijoma Ojukwu had earlier in the day expressed displeasure over the refusal of the DSS to release the two men. The judge then ordered that the defendants be released within 24 hours and adjourned till Friday, December the 6th, for the report of compliance. According to a lawyer in Mr. Falano's chambers, Mr. Marshall Abubakar, the defendants were released at 7:15 p.m. Thursday evening.
Yeah. So we just got out. They didn't give me back my phones yet, so that's no problem.
On the other hand, the Federal High Court in Lagos has found a former governor of Abia State, Orji Uzor Kalu, and two others guilty of 7.65 billion naira fraud. Justice Mohammed Idris sentenced Mr. Kalu to 12 years in prison, while his co-defendant, Mr. Ude Idogu, who was Director of Finance and Accounts at the Abia State Government House during Mr. Kalu's tenure as governor, got multiple sentences. Our correspondent, Millicent Walker, has this report.
The verdict is in, and former governor of Abia State, Orji Uzor Kalu, has been sentenced to 12 years in prison. The case was also against his firm, Sloke Nigeria Limited, and one Mr. Ude Idogu, who was the then Director of Finance and Accounts at the Abia State Government House. It's a case that has lasted over a decade and now appears to have gotten some closure, but not according to the Defense Counsel.
You were there, you listened to the judgment. That's what we're trying to obtain. We have to look at it holistically, and then we'll decide what to do. We'll take it up from there. Definitely we'll be appealing the judgment.
The prosecution had claimed that over 7 billion naira formed part of the funds converted into several bank drafts before they were paid into the said company's account.
The government official in Government House in Abia State were withdrawing funds almost on daily basis from government accounts, and they withdrew over 7 billion naira cash and then converted those funds, cash, into a draft in the name of a bank. And this draft ended up into the account of Sloke Nigeria Limited, a company solely held by the governor. At the end of the day, He was convicted over those counts, over those 39 counts, and then the maximum sentence imposed on him was 12 years.
And with a slight wave to anyone who cared, the defendant, now convicted, walks on to the prison section. The day's judgment by Justice Mohammed Idris came after the emergence of new facts, rearrangements, adjournments, and some 19 witnesses called by the prosecution who testified against Mr. Kalu and his co-defendants in court. Millicent Walker, Channels Television News.
And in Kaduna State, the High Court sitting in the state capital has ordered that the embattled leader of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife be transferred from the custody of the DSS to a correctional center in the state. In his ruling today, the trial judge, Justice Gideon Kurada, says the decision is to remand the IMN leader and his wife in correctional facility to enable their lawyers and doctors have access to them. He therefore adjourned the case to February the 6th for commencement of trial. The Shiite leader is facing trial over allegations of culpable homicide, unlawful assembly, and disruption of public peace, amongst other charges. On March the 26th, Justice Kurada adjourned the case indefinitely following his appointment as a member of the Election Petition Tribunal in Yobe State. In neighboring Kano State, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has again signed a reviewed Kano State Emir's Appointment and Disposition Law 2019, which empowers the governor to appoint and remove any traditional ruler. The law, which was earlier nullified by the Kano State High Court, has now made adequate provision for each emirate to have his own kingmakers. Governor Ganduje also confirmed that the aim of the new emirates is not to settle personal scores with anyone, but to further enhance the state's traditional institutions.
Council Bill 2019 was made in the public interest following a Kano High Court action that nullified the Emir's Appointment and Deposition Amendment Law, Caption 36 Laws of Kano State 2019, on the ground that the petition was presented to the Assembly by a private person who is not a member of the Kano State House of Assembly. Consequently, out of respect to the decision of the court, though not satisfied, and in the absence of any further order or law restraining either the executive arm or the State House of Assembly from presenting any bill or passing any bill into law respectively, thus this bill came on board.
Meanwhile, the Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, is insisting that the federal government's decision to close its land borders is to preserve the country's foreign policy in the nation's interest. Emir Sanusi explains that the decision was meant to stop neighboring countries from violating the ECOWAS protocol, given that Nigeria was fast becoming a dumping ground. He was speaking at the launch of the maiden Foreign Policy Journal by the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors of Nigeria, saying the closure is not inconsistent with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
If we have an industrial policy that is aimed at protecting the productive sector of Nigeria against unfair competition, we cannot allow our neighbors to open their doors to this unfair competition and through the back door undermine our industry. This is extremely important. About 2 years ago, the president came to Kano on a state visit, and I stood up and I said to him, close the borders. This was 2 years ago. And people said, well, you talk about free trade. I said, yes, close the borders, because this is not just about smuggling petroleum products, it's not about smuggling rice. I don't know how many people know, but in 2017, for example, the Republic of Benin was the world's second largest importer of tramadol after the United States. All those drugs came into northern Nigeria. There's a drug problem. So it's not about just undermining domestic production. It's not about the fiscal pressure of government with smuggling subsidized petrol. It's about destroying entire populations with drugs, what we need to do is do what China did. We need to protect our own industry. We need to protect our own production. We need to protect our own markets. And we need to make sure that trade is fair.
Lagosians woke up this Thursday to news of another pipeline fire in the Barua area of Lagos, occasioned by activities of suspected vandals on the NNPC pipelines in the area. According to the general manager of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, the fire claimed one life and left another person injured. But reports reaching us says the fire has not been completely put out.
Residents of Road 11, Peace Estate in the Barua area of Alimosho local government, Lagos, woke up to yet another day of smoke billowing into the atmosphere as yet another pipeline explodes following the suspected activities of vandals. This latest explosion is reported to have also affected Gloryland Estate in Isheri Olofi and Diamond Estate along the Isheri Lasu Igodo Road.
It was around 8 o'clock in the morning. I heard sound in my house. I live around Idowegwa. Now I came out. I saw smoke covering the cloud. So the only thing I remembered is to run away, safety. So I carry my small son, my young son. I told my wife to forget about everything in the house and run for her life.
Chairman of the Peace Estate Residents Association says he noticed the vandalized point yesterday and alerted NNPC officials who only contained the situation temporarily.
When they came, they saw the place where those people are siphoning the vandals put a pipe. So they remove it. When they remove it, I think they block it partially with the intention of coming back today to do the complete work. So, but there was flow of product, and eventually, there will be spillage. The spillage now flew through along the way with waterway. The pipe does not get here. The pipe only get to some area there and goes up.
But you encourage this because when they come, they give you little money and you keep quiet. You should learn to give information. See what is happening now. Are you happy you are saying this? And this thing as it happens, look at your houses are here. Do you want to lose your lives? Then why are you encouraging it? If you see that they are doing something like this, inform us. Our numbers are written everywhere.
This is perhaps what the police mean by reporting suspicious activities as officers remove bottles from inside a wall suspected to have been filled with fuel from the vandalized points.
Oh boy, carry that thing come out.
And it gets dirtier as a larger container is dug up from its hiding place.
Wow. Wow. In the church. In the church?
A testimony that the illegal act has been ongoing, undetected or unreported for some time.
We have used our foam, which we think we exhausted almost 350 liters of foam compound on it. So we're unable to get foam compound now. That's why you see my men standing, waiting. Maybe NNPC will bring out their foam to support us.
Danger was averted last month close to the area after a petrol tanker went up in flames as suspected vandals attempted to escape with trucks of stolen fuel.
In part two, after the break, federal government offers travelers 4-month free train services with the flag off of the Lagos to Ibadan rail service. That's in a moment. Stay with us.